Most of us assume that the thoughts running through our minds are our own, fully under our control. But what if they function more like pop-up ads, uninvited and persistent, or like a shuffled playlist we never consciously hit play on? Thinking feels like an act of creation, but in reality, it's more about consumption. Your thoughts arise from a vast network of memories. The books you've read, the conversations you've had, all blended together by your subconscious into an unpredictable remix. The real challenge? We're terrible at distinguishing useful thoughts from mere noise. One moment you're deciding what to eat for lunch. The next you're spiraling back to an awkward moment from a decade ago. Thought tunnels work like that, pulling you in, twisting your perception, and making you forget where you even started. Each thought tunnel has a distinct character. Some are light and expansive, leading to insights and inspiration. Others are dark, suffocating, in endless loops of self-doubt or regret. The key is learning which tunnels are worth exploring and which should be abandoned before they consume you. Whatever you focus on gains power. If you repeatedly wander through the same bleak tunnels, you carve out deeper paths in your mind, like turning a narrow trail into a superhighway. These thought patterns become ingrained, making them easier to access and harder to escape. But not all thought tunnels are negative. Some lead to moments of clarity, to places where everything finally makes sense. Socrates referred to this guiding inner voice as the daimonion, a mysterious force that emerges when you engage in deep, meaningful thinking. When you're in a constructive thought tunnel, you're not lost. You're exploring. So how do you break free from a destructive tunnel of thought? You don't fight it. Struggling against your thoughts is like trying to punch a cloud. It only leaves you frustrated and exhausted. Instead, you shift. Carl Jung introduced the idea of the collective unconscious, a vast shared reservoir of human experience and archetypes. The thoughts running through your mind aren't entirely your own. They're echoes of generations before you, shaped by history, culture, and ancestral fears. That anxiety about money? It's not just yours. It's the ghost of centuries of human survival struggles. When you realize your mind is haunted by inherited thoughts, you gain the power to step back and observe rather than be consumed. Ever feel trapped in a cycle of thinking? Like there's no escape? That's because you're searching for the obvious exits, the ones your mind expects to find. But every thought tunnel has a secret door, one that isn't found through force, but through detachment. Indigenous wisdom often describes thoughts as energetic beings. When you engage with a thought, you feed it, giving it life. If you stop feeding the monsters, they wither. Instead of reinforcing endless loops, you can cultivate new patterns of thought, ones that nurture creativity and clarity. Some thought tunnels function as infinite loops, repeating like a broken record. But here's the trick. You don't break a loop by running faster. You break it by stopping. The more you resist a recurring thought, the stronger it becomes. But the moment you stop fighting, its power fades. Thought tunnels feel endless because we assume they have a set structure. But they aren't permanent roads. They're built as you walk them. Ever notice those fleeting gaps between thoughts? Those brief pauses of pure silence before the next thought arises? That's where the real you resides. Spiritual traditions point to these gaps as the essence of being. The more you focus on these spaces, the more you realize that thoughts are just noise layered over something eternal and unchanging. Thoughts are like smoke, drifting and shifting. But your awareness is the fire that creates them. The goal isn't to extinguish the smoke, but to reconnect with the source. When you stop chasing thoughts, you start feeling the warmth of what you truly are. Something timeless and alive. Your soul doesn't think. It doesn't need to. Thought is a survival tool, a function of the mind navigating the material world. That's why so many spiritual traditions emphasize quieting the mind. Not because thoughts are bad, but because they are irrelevant to the essence of who you are. Before you had your first thought, you had your first breath. Breath is more ancient than thought, more connected to your fundamental being. That's why so many spiritual practices focus on breathing, to guide you beneath the restless chatter of the mind and back to something primal, something real. It's not just oxygen, it's life force, proof that you exist beyond the stories your thoughts spin. Every time a thought arises, ask yourself, am I the first person to ever think this? The answer is almost always no. Your thoughts are borrowed, echoes of billions of minds across history. This realization isn't discouraging, it's freeing. If your thoughts aren't entirely yours, why be so attached to them? Why let them define you? Instead, shift your attention beyond thought, toward what is eternal and unshaped by the endless loops of human thinking. Thoughts function like dominoes, endlessly toppling one into the next. But between each falling piece is a tiny space, a gap where nothing happens. That space is where you truly exist. The more you notice these gaps, the more they expand. Eventually, you'll see that these pauses aren't interruptions of thought. They are reality itself. The thoughts are the interruptions. Every thought begins as a seed. It may have been planted by you, by your surroundings, or by something deeper. Some call it karma, others divine will. But just because a thought is planted doesn't mean you have to water it. The moment you stop reacting to every passing thought, you stop giving them energy. And when you stop feeding them, they stop growing. Instead of a tangled forest of chaotic thoughts, you are left with an open field, a clear, spacious mind. To think is to listen, but listening doesn't mean agreement. Just because a thought arises doesn't mean it's true or important. Most thoughts are recycled opinions, emotional echoes, and mental habits. By stepping back and simply observing, you realize you don't have to own them. We label thoughts as good or bad, useful or useless. But in truth, thoughts are just energy moving through the mind. They have no inherent meaning until you assign it. The moment you stop labeling them, you see them for what they are, passing waves in an endless sea of awareness. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Maybe, just maybe, he was right.